Great. Great to have you on.
Thank
And I think we'll get started on our first question here. You are the founder of ezLocator, and I wanted you to give us a bit of information about your role at ezLocator, the origins of the company, and also the backstory. And what does the offering consist of as a solution provider as well?
Absolutely. Be happy to do that. So ezLocator was founded in 2008. It actually started out as a club project at my home course, the Dallas Athletic Club. And the Dallas Athletic Club is famous for an event that occurred in 1963. We hosted the 1963 PGA Championship. It was the
Okay.
very first PGA Championship that Jack Nicklaus won. So he won that event at DAC, and so we have a long history of working with Mr. Nicklaus. He redesigned both golf courses. In 1986 was the first redesign of the Blue Course, which is where
Okay.
he won the championship, and then he redesigned our Gold Course in 1989. So the way it got started is typically our groups would play Saturday, Sunday. We had two golf courses, so we could mix it up. One Saturday we'd play the Gold Course. The next Saturday we'd play the Blue Course. So we switched them back and forth, and that gave us variety. We'd have about 16 to 20 guys that would play every Saturday, Sunday. Some could play both days, some couldn't. And so as a player and a member of a club, there's basically three things that most members or players will always complain about. The first one is bunker conditions, the second one is ball marks on the greens, and the third one is hole locations. And the Ryder Cup this past weekend, you always heard about hole locations, and you always hear about that on the telecast. So my experience as a player, I grew up playing the game of golf. I taught my children to play. I became number 5 on the family golf team, and I was a scratch player. I had an opportunity to play some competitive golf, saw a lot of competitive golf, and I wanted to create a tournament-like feel every day for the players. And how did we do that? So my professional career has been in technology. And so I took my technology experience, the things that I learned from there, and I married my technology career with my avocation of playing golf. And that's how I came up with ezLocator at the Dallas Athletic Club. The purpose
Mm.
of that was threefold. One was basically find the optimum hole location for the superintendent. Number 2 is help improve the health of his greens. And finally, to improve and have a tournament-like feel every single day for the player. Instead of what most courses would do is a front, middle, back, a quadrant system where you pick various areas of the green, and you'd always come back to the same area. And that was the largest complaint that we saw at DAC was placement of hole locations because they were always in the same spot every week. So that was the start of ezLocator. And from
Mm.
there, we've just, a friend of mine and I, put our heads together. He did the development work. I came up with the creative idea of how to do that within our club, and it sat there idle for a couple of years before I started the business in 2008. So that's the origin of ezLocator. I can dig into
Okay.
more if you'd like to. Any specific questions you'd like for me to respond to?
Well, thanks for giving us sort of the background of that, John, and really interesting story about where you've come from. And it's interesting. Obviously, we all go into our passions, which mine is actually golf as well. So my passion is media and golf, and I put those two together. So it's interesting to hear your story, but where you've come from. In terms of projects that you've recently been involved in. Tell us a bit more about that, about the work that you guys do exactly. Give us sort of a case study about a project you were recently involved in, and what did that entail?
Yeah, so what ezLocator really entails is providing a tool for the greenskeeper to find that optimum daily hole location. Prior to ezLocator, most tasks were handled by the cup cutter. You would hand
Mm.
him a sheet maybe. He would basically have no directions in most cases and go out and find the optimum spot. So you didn't get a lot of variety. What the cup cutter would do is typically would go to a spot that he recognized he may have had last week and do that. So what we do is we map the greens, and we can either do it physically by taking a laser scanner or a drone to collect that information about the contours of the greens. or there's typically a lot of times available data from aerials, imagery, or from satellites, and we can use that. So whatever data is available, we can take either one of those. And from that, what we do is we identify the contours and create a heat map to identify all the flattest spots of the green. And we all know that green speeds over the years, especially in the States, has increased over time. I can go back historically and say in mid 1970s, Augusta National was 7.5 on the green speed. Uh, Oakmont was about 9. A few others were
Mhm.
about 8 to 9, something like that. Today, you hear about green speeds of being 12, 13, and so forth like that. So there's a strong relationship between slope of the green as well as the speed of the green. And so the faster the speed of the green, the flatter the surface has to be. So there's this struggle from a superintendent's perspective to finding a fair hole location to basically meet the criteria he's trying to do, as well as how does he manage the health of his greens. If he goes back to the same location repeatedly, he's starting to see some wear and tear, possibly disease occurs. So what we do is we try to protect areas that have been used to go in a different direction. So our basic system has 5 basic rules today, and we're incorporating a 6th one. And so we obtained a patent in 2018 in the US on what we've done, and in 2024 we obtained a international patent on that, which really kind of was amazing that whatever we came up with is very unique worldwide. So the first rule is once we use a cup, we take it out of play for a period of time to allow it to heal. The second rule is if I see an area of the green that is worn or has a little bit of disease, a little bit of weakness, I can isolate that area for a period of time. In most cases, let's say for 2 weeks, give it a rest period and try to move that traffic that coming in and off the green in a different direction. The third rule is what we call an avoidable area. So we want to protect the area the last week to 10 days of that area from where it was before. The idea is if you have an extensive play for a period of time, that whole location and that area becomes stressed out. So we want to protect that area. The fourth rule, which we call our step meter rule, is based upon green speeds that the greenskeeper is keeping, he can set it low or high, and the higher he sets on that green speed, the smaller or the fewer holes become available for the system to check. The final rule we have active today is what we call a special event rule. So if I'm planning a club championship, competition amongst other clubs, a member guest, or some other thing like that, I can pre-plan those months or even years in advance. Many of
Mm.
our facilities in the U.S., basically, the higher profile clubs like, an Oakland Hills or a Marion or a Ronamick, basically have historic events that they have, and they'll use those for a member guest, so they can pre-plan those, and our system will stay away from it from a pre-designated time, so it allows for the course setup to be pristine prior to that major event. We're also introducing AI. And so the whole concept is we want to start using the intelligence we've been gathering over these years about placement of holes and anticipate where the greenskeeper would like to have them based upon past experience and past exposure. So that's where ezLocator really shines. And we're very
Mm.
proud of the fact that been very successful in what we do. We've maintained a greater than 99.9% customer retention rate. We're primarily in the U.S., Canada. We do have some international customers over in Europe as well as Australia. So over the years, you're going to start seeing ezLocator through some of our partners that we built, primarily Club Car and a few others that we built, will actually help us go more international in our product.
Great, great. Well, I think that was one of my questions actually, in terms of the wider reach of the product and the company as well. I see that you're working in Europe as well, but you touched on something there that I want to go back to, and it was actually leading into my next question, which is surprise, surprise, AI. So let's dive into that into more detail. Let's talk about AI at ezLocator. Let's talk about how it fits in to the service. Let's talk more about that and give us some input about your thoughts on AI in the industry of golf, but also world anyway in terms of any industry as well. So let's sort of get into that too, John.
Sure. AI is kind of an interesting topic. There's a lot of what I call fear, uncertainty, and doubt about AI. AI is only as smart as the person behind. Coming from the technology space, early on in my career, I remember some smart person telling me that when you're dealing with computers and you're dealing with systems, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And so with AI, it's basically the same thing. And what we've been able to do over the last 15 or 20 years with the advent of the internet, advent of data centers collecting all of this data, we now have information that we can use for repeatable tasks. And where AI has been very, very good at is when there's a task that needs to be performed at a very fast rate, it's able to recall various pieces of that data and that information to come up with an ideal solution. We hear about that in the medical industry. They're able to basically feed the system a lot of historical data about diseases or things of that nature, and they're able to
Mm.
basically recognize, based upon these certain criteria, that's the recommended solution. Now, one of the challenges with AI is it doesn't have a reasoning component. I've always maintained technology is agnostic. It has no difference between right and wrong. And there's a lot of evil in the world, there's a lot of good in the world, and it all depends upon who's behind that technology. Same thing goes with AI. If we ask that AI to basically take something and try to basically hypothesize something it wasn't aware of, it has a very difficult time to basically do that. It has no conscience either. So again, AI, people are concerned about, that being in the future, taking over the world. I don't know if we're going to see this in our lifetime anytime soon, primarily because of the limitations. Now, in the golf industry, what we're doing is we have all kinds of inputs that we're basically bringing into our system. There's a lot of features and functions that a greenskeeper does. Number one is they're concerned about moisture of the green. They're concerned about the soil temperature. They're concerned about the temperature of the surface. They're concerned about salinity of the content in the soil. They're concerned about all kinds of data inputs out there. But to simulate that, that's where we can basically take those measurables and come up with an algorithm to basically help them ideally find that hole location. What would be really interesting is if you pick the hole location based upon the temperature for the day, the conditions of the green, the wind direction, wear and tear, all kinds of inputs. And we said we throw this all into a system and says, okay, based upon our past experience and features, this is the ideal hole location for today. And there's also some other factors here. So that's where AI is really playing in. So for the last 3 years, we have been collecting information anonymously of our customers' actions. So if we basically make a recommendation for a hole location for that day and the customer moves it, we record that move. And we may record why, time of day, what other factors were there. And by doing that, if we ever encounter a situation very similar to that, we're able to basically produce an accurate information so there's not any changes that need to be made. So for selecting hole locations is really a repeatable process and makes it very simple for introduction into AI.
Okay, great, great. Well, thanks for giving me sort of a background about that, John, and very interesting to hear. And a bit of an easier question now, and
Okay. Yeah.
uh, and they're all easy questions. But um, you wake up in the morning. What's the driving passion for you? And it doesn't have to be your job or golf.
It's really interesting. I started out as an engineer, and I always recognized that I'm a solution-oriented individual. Tell me what the challenge is, and I'll try to come up with a solution. So early in my career, I recognized that I got a lot of excitement about finding and identifying problems and come up with a solution. That's why I got into sales in the technology space. And so what really gets me excited every day is the challenge of what can we do more? Within our organization, we try to basically, stress a couple of things. Anybody can come up with a great product. But to me, the difference of a successful company and a good company is customer service. I have a motto in the office that says a customer for life. You know, I feel we're very successful in maintaining customers because we basically do things, much different from a customer service and a customer care. I think over time we've leveraged too much technology to basically try to respond to a customer's needs as opposed to picking up the phone and calling them. I stress to our team anytime we have an opportunity to pick up the phone and call a customer to basically respond to their needs, I always tell our customers a 5-minute phone call will save you hours of frustration. So we're finding that need of how do we do things differently excites me every day. We want to be different. Growing up, I always felt there was a little bit of difference in me. I always looked at the world a little bit different. Some people may say, I'm ADD or basically, I see things that may be dyslexic a little bit. But again, if we can differentiate ourselves every single day, that basically sets us apart. And what I really want ezLocator to be known as the go-to company. We have a product today, that basically does a certain function and feature, but because of the relationships we're establishing in the golf industry, we're now becoming known more as a technology company because of the background of the individuals that we have here. I have a great CTO that's got a great technology background. I come from an engineering background. So we really want to basically do one thing. We want to put the customer first. If we put the customer first and we work with other partners in the industry to come up with better solutions, it's a win-win-win. The customer wins, our partners win, and obviously we're part of the winning team too.
Gross, gross. Well, I think you've answered my next two questions already. So, well, what specific role does customer feedback play into your efforts? And I think you just answered that really well there, and how you differentiate yourselves from other solution providers in the space too. So, I think your focus on customer service really stands out the passion there, John. So, thank you for sharing that with us. But I think I'll go into uh, the next sort of phase of questions, and we talk about growth, sustained growth in the space. You're obviously the motto of looking after the customer first. It's great, and that sustains growth and creates growth at the end of the day as well. So tell us more about your plans. I mean, you said you've got, the US, that part of the world, some parts in Europe as well. But what are the plans for growth in the future for the space, for the golf industry, for yourself, for ezLocator going forward?
Well, I think since 2020, the golf industry has experienced tremendous growth and tremendous interest. I see multiple avenues of where the golf industry is going to take off exponentially. I
Mm,
think there will always be players out there playing the game of golf. We're seeing that gamification, simulator golf, other kinds of off-course activities being very, very important to the game of golf. One of the things that I've seen is, growing up early, it was always treated as a gentleman's game. And, having raised 3 boys on the golf course, I remember the early days back in the 80s where sometimes we'd see some of the older gentlemen kind of looking at us and going, what are these young kids being out there? Obviously, they were on their best behavior, and we as parents, we tried to basically make sure that they did. But over time, I've seen a change in the attitude for the game of golf to be more inclusive, to allow children and mothers and dads and parents and grandparents to play together. Probably one of the greatest thrills that I saw one day was I actually saw my middle son walking down the fairway with an elder gentleman one day playing golf. It's generational. And that's the wonderful thing about the game. So again, those historical pieces to the game, the traditions of the game still maintain and hold true today that they did yesterday. Where I see happening today is we're imitating the technology and bringing that into the fold. And how do we make this more exciting and more useful to create more energy and more excitement for the non-golfer? Many of us suffer from lack of time to go do something. Golf is a 4 to 6 hour round, depending upon where you play and how you play. Sometimes it really makes it kind of simple just to play for an hour or two. The simulator world, I've visualized that, in the coming future, that golf simulators in the home will take off. My vision
Mm,
for ezLocator to play a role in that is, so I'm a member of a facility or I play a regular facility, but what if I had that facility on my simulator at home? And what if ezLocator integrated with that facility so I can see where that whole location is for that particular day? So now if I'm taking my grandchild or my child, and saying introducing them to game, we can play in the comfort of our home and say, okay, let's play this and let's play this course and that course. So a beginner or a child now gets to experience the game in a non-threatening manner. They're not embarrassed by going out there and not understanding the nuances, whether it be the traditions of the game or how to play.
mm,
They're not embarrassed.
mm,
It creates a safe haven for them to learn the game. And then when they step on the golf course, they go, wow, I've played this before. So
mm,
I see, that off-course experience really bringing more and more people into the game. In the U.S. in particular, the private club industry, we're experiencing, a tremendous interest in joining a club. That to me is only part of it. Playing game of golf is part of it. The other is the social aspect of it. And I think we're bringing people together so that we're able to basically, enjoy each other's company long term. So I see a very healthy vibe, within the golf industry long term. As far as partners are concerned, it's really quite interesting. In the 90s, it was not unusual for the big companies like the IBMs of the world or the Microsofts of the world, basically, dominate the market. But what the customer saw was, they had specific business needs and business requirements that they needed to have solved. And so they would pan the horizon and say, what companies out there providing a niche need to fit my problem? And then they would go to the big company and say, look, this company is small. I recognize it, but they have a business need. We want you to work with it. And so you became this ecosystem of large and small entities working together to satisfy the customer needs. I see that happening the same thing in the golf industry. We have relationships with Club Card today. We have relationships with Toro today. We have a relationship with Golf Logics today. So we're working with the industry pioneers, the ones that are really
mm.
large, and we're basically providing a solution that their customer is asking for in a time that we can provide it in a time to market much faster than if they had to do it themselves. So there's a great healthy opportunity for all of us in the golf industry to work together and come up with unique solutions to basically improve, all aspects of the game, whether you're a player or a practitioner out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about collaboration at the end of the day, and strategic partnerships going forward. And it's interesting that you say that you see a future for ezLocator in off-course golf as well. And I'm interested to see more of that in this space, in your space as well, and hear more news about that going forward. And I guess the natural progress of that would be to work with the simulator companies directly eventually. But no, that's great. We held, I don't know if you're aware, but we held our conference in Belfast this year with
Okay.
the likes of TrackMan and Top Tracer and InRange and all of them as well. So, of course, golf was a big topic at the event. So we'll hopefully see you at those events going forward in the near future. But the next sort of area I want to look at, John, is uh, challenges for ezLocator. Are there any challenges facing ezLocator, short and long term? And how do you plan on dealing with them?
Well, I think we're all challenged from a business standpoint. What we need to see. One of my challenges is what is the next thing to do. Our biggest challenge is, and I like to tell everybody this, is that people say, "Who is our competition?" Our unfortunately our competition is the client that does nothing. We're very blessed and fortunate from a technology perspective. We've introduced something into the world that at the time we introduced it in 2009 was ahead of the times. And so trying to basically introduce a product into a marketplace that may not have been ready was a significant challenge that we had to overcome. The challenge was we had to get one customer, and we got one customer, we get two customers. And now we basically have a very unique following where we have, 40 of the top 100 courses in the US that are clients of ours. We've got clients in the US, clients in Canada. We're starting to get worldwide. Our biggest challenge, I believe, is how do we scale the business to accommodate the significant growth that I see. You know, Partnerships with like Golf Logics, which is a worldwide company, partnerships with companies like Toro or Golf Club Car are worldwide entities. How do we basically come to market with our product and work with our partners to be able to fulfill that solution in a timely manner? Being able to manage that. In fact, I was on a call with a partner this morning where we were encountering some technical issues. But the bigger issue was the business side. How do we agree on terms and conditions? So that was slowing down the relationship a little bit. We'd already solved the technical issue. It was the business side. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us from a business leader perspective to recognize that what we're doing today needs to be shared with our partners. And, we can compete and we can also collaborate. And in the technology world, we used a term called coopetition. We would cooperate with
Mm.
our partners, and we'd also compete with our partners. This is pretty prevalent in the technology space, and I always like to tell everybody about this story about Apple and Microsoft. So when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, Apple was really in a financial really pickle of trying to basically grow. They were basically on the verge of bankruptcy. Microsoft and Bill Gates basically provided Apple an infusion of $150 million to keep them afloat. So you don't hear that on the sales, presentation or the advertisements of them competing, but on the back end, they were basically complementing each other and so forth like that. Today, even Google and Microsoft, collaborate on the back end. So engineers are all about collaboration. So the more we can collaborate as an organization out there, that's going to be the biggest
Mm.
challenge. Our biggest
Mm.
challenge is getting, larger organizations to understand that. And
Mm.
we'll be able to fit the need. I think we've got a great staff. We grow as we need. I'm always trying to anticipate the next big thing so that we're always having the right people. Leveraging technology has always been one of the things that I've always felt key and critical to growth. And the more organizations that support the golf industry embrace technology, the better it's going to serve the whole industry overall. So that's, to me, I think is the biggest challenge today, is getting people to move at the pace in which I've been accustomed to moving in the technology world.
Well said. Well said. Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And um, we're going to head down into our last two questions now, John. And we'll easy question, is it? But I don't know. So, best advice you've ever received? What was it, and who was it from?
Well, one of the best piece of advice I got was from my golf professional. This was back in the day, as I tell my kids. He said, "John, if you ever want to get in the golf business, you'll never play much golf." I didn't listen to it. And so I look back on that.
True.
I said
It's
I
true.
said, but what really has really given me a great satisfaction over the years is I actually had the opportunity to play golf my entire career and life and stuff like that, and I've always enjoyed the game. But the most satisfaction I've gotten out of the game is the ability and the desire to give back to the game. So even though that advice was, if you want to continue to play golf, don't get in the golf business, I basically ignored that. But the greatest reward have gotten out of that is the satisfaction that we're providing a viable solution to our customers, that every time we go talk to them, they go, "Wow, you've made my life easy." I don't hear the comments about what crazy guy put that flag there today. I couldn't do anything without ezLocator. We've had, superintendents that have moved and changed positions, and they use ezLocator as part of the selling point of why they should be the next superintendent of a facility. So again, to me, that's the greatest satisfaction. And from that advice, I feel like I've got a tremendous reward by not, basically listening to that and staying out of the golf business.
Yeah. Very good. Um, well, we'll end off with a general question, and where do you see the overall industry heading? in the next 5 to 10 years? If you had a crystal ball, where do you think we're going really with golf?
Well, that's a fabulous question, and I really see that, the gamification, the golf simulators and stuff like that are really gonna be taking the opportunity and going to the next step. I think that's going to be playing a key role because the downside is there's only so much land and real estate to build golf courses, and so you're still going to have that from a tradition of the game. You're seeing the top golfs of the world. You're seeing golf ranges, driving ranges, multi-level driving ranges where people can go out and experience it. I think that's going to be one of the key things. But most importantly, I think what it's going to do is I think we're going to start seeing more of a worldwide opportunity where it's going to bring the world together through a game that we all love in a sport. I saw this with the Ryder Cup. We're competing with each other, the U.S. against the Europeans. And, what's really fascinating is that, both sides win when that happens because it's friendly
Mm,
competition. Both organizations want to win. But at the end of the day, we shake hands and we say, great match. And so
mm,
I see the game overall inspiring young people to basically act as gentlemen, act as ladies, and be able to socialize and carry on in their normal life and do something for a lifetime. In the States, we have baseball, basketball, and football. We call football, soccer here
okay.
in some cases. But anyhow, those sports you can only play a certain limited time within your lifespan. Golf, you can play forever, whether you're young, engaged with a young family, or even old like myself. We all still have that passion, and we still get the opportunity to go play. So I see a healthy, vibrant, growth in the marketplace over the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of construction going on, renovation of historic golf courses and renovation of new golf courses and stuff like that. So I think the game is really in a healthy position. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to leave the game in a better shape than we found it.